Namaste and good morning, everyone. We'll start our class with the opening prayers. Please chant along with me. Om Gurur Brahma Gurur Vishnu Gurur Devo Maheshwaraha Guru Sakshat Parabrahma Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Om Sahana Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karvavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Now Mahamrityunjay mantra 3 times. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Trayambakam Yajamahe Sugandhim Pushtivardhanam Urvarukam Iva Bandhana Mrutyurmukshiyamamrutat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Welcome everyone. Today we'll start a new topic for our course, that is Krut Pratyaya. If you remember, we decided that Sanskrit primarily has, these are the major topics in Sanskrit grammar, and we did Sandhi, Shabdroop and Dhaturoop in our course 1, Sanskrit 01. We revisited some of these topics in Sanskrit 02. Then we did Samasa, not exhaustively, but we did some part of Samasa in our course Sanskrit 02. And Krut Pratyaya, that is what we will do today. So this is considered a very important topic in Sanskrit. This is what gives you a great insight how a particular word is formed and what is its meaning. So we'll see, and it is relatively easy to understand. So it covers a lot of ground. On the other hand, it is relatively easy to understand. So we'll look at it in more detail today. Krut Pratyaya. So in English, when you have certain verbs, for example, you have teach, and if you add plus R, it becomes teacher. Similarly, you could have do, and you could add plus ER, and it becomes doer. You could have speak, and you add the ER, it becomes speaker. So teach is a verb, and teacher is represents the one who teaches. Do is a verb, doer is a person who does. speak is a verb, speaker is a person who speaks. So when we add this suffix er in English, it gives us a new word. From verb, we get a new word, which is a noun. And the meaning of that noun is the person who does that action, represented by the verb. But so this thing, suffix, in English, we have certain suffixes like this, which allow us to form noun forms from the verbal forms. But it's not very well structured. It's not defined by a exhaustive kind of rule. So for example, if I have cook, if I add er, what will I get? Cooker. Cooker is not the person who cooks. The person who cooks is also cook. So there are a lot of such exceptions in English. In Sanskrit, the similar kind of concept is there, where you can make the nouns from the verbs. So they can work both as noun and adjective, and they can be formed from the verb. So this concept is called in Sanskrit Prakruti plus Pratyaya. So Prakriti plus Pratyaya. Prakriti is the base word and Pratyaya is the suffix. So all the words in Sanskrit are made upon this concept. And this concept is what Panini's grammar utilizes extensively. That how do you form a word? How do you break a word in its components? And they decided that that could be two things. Every word can be basically made of a Prakriti plus Pratyaya. Prakriti is the base. Generally, Prakriti means nature, but here in the grammatical term, it's like the base, and Pratyaya is the suffix. So these Pratyayas could be very different, various kinds, the suffixes. We already saw some of them. So for example, when you have a form bhavati, and you know that we had this thing made from bhu, who was our root, and ti was the suffix, and it became bhavati after doing certain operations. It's not directly connecting to like bhuti. There are certain operations involved, but the idea is the same. In this case, this suffix leads to the proper verb form only. So this is the raw verb form, raw root, and this is the usable verb form in a sentence, bhavati or gacchati, like Ramaha gacchati. So we have a gam as the prakriti, the root form, and ti is the suffix, becomes gacchati, Rama goes. So this kind of suffixes gives rise to the forms, which is a verb form which represents the verb, and it can be used in a sentence. There is a category of the suffixes which gives rise to nominal forms from the verb, just like teach, teacher, do, doer. So this is like we have seen once this kind of suffix, even though we did not say it was a krut pratyaya, but I'll give you an example. So kru is the root for the to do, and if I put kartru, that is the doer. So kru is the root, tru is the suffix, kartru is the nominal form, the doer. We saw the declensions of this form earlier in one of the classes when we were discussing the rukaranta nominal forms. So if you remember here, like this, we said pitru for father, the nominals ending in rukara, kartru, the doer, the agent noun ending in ru. So this is tru is the suffix, and kartru, that becomes the doer. So kru is the root, tru is the suffix, becomes doer. So this works very similar to what in English you have this ER, except that here the rules are very well defined. And this is one category of krut pratyaya. So tru is one of the krut pratyayas. So krut pratyayas are those which give rise to the nominal form from the verbal roots. So you use the verbal roots, they are, and then you use the suffix, a particular krut suffix, and it gives rise to the nominal form. These nominal forms doesn't always have to be in the form of doer of the action. That is just one of the suffix. You could have the suffix in the sense of the action itself, like the sense of action. So he does the study. So to study is a verb, and he is doing his studies. There, the same study is a noun. In Sanskrit, that kind of thing is not there, that the same word is used for verb and nouns at the same time. So there will be a root for study, and that you could add a suffix that will create a noun, but it would mean it would represent the sense of the verb. Secondly, in Sanskrit, this tru pratyaya particularly, that can be formed from any word. So if I just like cook, we cannot do it in English, but in Sanskrit, if I have pach, and if I add this tru, it becomes paktru. As I said, there are certain rules which determine how these forms are made, but the idea is that there is a base, in this case it's a verbal root, and there is a suffix, and it gives rise to the form. Again, paktru can be made just like kartru. So kartru becomes karta in nominative, paktru becomes pakta. So pakta would become, means the cook. In English, what would be the person who cooks. So this is one category of krut pratyaya, which tells you that what is the noun which represents the doer of that action. And we have already then seen. Once this form is made, then in order to use in a sentence, you would use it in the appropriate case. So like kartru is formed, depending upon which case do you want to use, you would use karta, kartarau, kartara, like that. The most interesting forms which are made using krut pratyaya are participles. So what's a participle? So I just got this definition from website, from this link. Participle is a word. Participle is a word formed from a verb like going, gone, being, been, and used as an adjective like a working woman, burnt toast, or it can be used as a noun like good breeding. In English, participles are also used to make compound verb forms like is going, has been, like that. So Sanskrit, the concept is similar of participle. These are the words formed from a verb and used as an adjective or a noun, and they can complement the verbal function. So what does that mean, that complementing the verbal function? We'll see. So first today we'll study two major krut pratyaya suffixes which are very important to form some participles. So these are the two participles. Sorry, this is two participles giving a form which is similar to called gerund in English. When I said similar to, what we say in English as gerund may sometimes differ from what we call in Sanskrit twa pratyaya or lyap pratyaya. So you have to just understand, but in Sanskrit books, generally in English translation of these terms, you will find as gerund. It may not always match the idea of gerund in English. So the suffix itself is called twa. Even though it's called twa, the usable form is only twa. The kakara is dropped. Then the question is, why do we put kakara? So that's a lot of science behind it in Panini grammar. For our purpose, we can just understand as twa. We don't have to worry about twa. The reason I am introducing you to this form also, twa with the kakara, it's a little difficult to pronounce also. The reason I'm introducing is that when you refer to the dictionary, when you study the higher grammar books, they would probably refer to this form. So you should know that it's actually this form. So at this stage, that is the use. When you study the actual Panini grammar, its original form, then you will understand that what is the purpose of this particular kakara which is dropped. And there is a significant purpose. But that is not in the scope of our course right now. All I wanted to tell you this original suffix form, so that if you refer to the dictionary or study higher grammar books, you will understand that it is the same suffix we are talking about. Then another is lyap. Only ya remains of lyap. So lakara and pakara, they drop off. So again, the same thing. In the dictionary and other places, you might find lyap, but actually it's a ya suffix. The interesting thing is that final form is indeclinable. So unlike here when I was telling you that kartru, paktru, these become the nominal base, and then you have to bring the vibhakti or the cases to make these forms, karta, kartarahu, kartaraha, like that, in order to use in a sentence. But in case of twa pratyaya, they are indeclinables. You don't have to do anything. So it makes it very easy that you just make the word and it's ready to use. You really don't have to worry about the cases. So very, very easy to use. This twa is added to the roots to make the final form. And so both are used to make the gerund form, gerund participle. The difference is when you are adding directly to the root, you will use twa. When you are adding, if verb has one or more prefixes, if you remember, there were prefixes we discussed about, there are 20, like prati, some, we, these are called prefixes, verbal prefixes, which you can add prior to the verb and it changes the meaning of the verb. If the verb has one or more prefixes, then you would use ya. So they are both serve the same function, exactly the same function. Both suffixes, twa and ya, both serve exactly the same function. They give rise to the same participle. The difference is if the root is without any prefixes, you will use twa. If the root is with prefixes, you will use ya. That is the main difference. Both forms are indeclinable. So let's see some examples here. We'll take the three popular roots. Kru means to do, you already know. Shru means to hear, and gya means to know. All these verb forms would be familiar to you. So kru, when you make twa pratyaya, you see it's very simple. All you have to do is add twa, krutva. The meaning of this word is having done or after doing. So having done a particular action, I do another action. In that sense, it is used. We'll discuss the use a little bit later. But the meaning of this participle form which is made, it means having done or after doing. Shrutva, same, very simple. You see, shru is the root, you add the suffix twa and you get shrutva, means having heard. Gya, gyatva, having known. So this makes it extremely simple, as you can see, adding the making the participle forms. You just add the suffix twa. How about ya, this suffix? So here you have to remember one rule. For roots ending in short vowel, ya changes to tya. So kru is a root ending in short vowel. This rukara, it is short vowel. So when you add ya pratyaya, so two conditions have to be there for ya to change to tya. First, the condition for bringing ya. Ya is brought when the verb is having a prefix. So in this case, kru, this has the prefix called prati. So prati kru. And second condition is that if the root itself is a short vowel, then ya changes to tya. So pratikrutya. You will not say pratikruya. Pratikrutya. Here it means having returned the favor. the meaning changes not because of the suffix, but because of the prefix, this prati. So because of this, the meaning changes. Puraskritya, placing before or in front. So same logic, puras is the something coming before the verb, and tya, it should have been ya, but it became tya because the root has the short vowel. Samshrutya, here the prefix is sam, shru is the root, and tya is the suffix, means having well heard. Gya, v is the prefix, ya is the suffix, nya is the root, vigyaya, having well known. This thing comes in Bhagavad Gita 13:18. So if I take you to Gita, I'll open the Gita file later, and I'll show you this example. G, it is another root which you are well familiar to win. So jitva, having won, vijitya also means having won. V means kind of in a special sense, so a special win. So that's how you form the gerund. It's pretty simple, as you can see. There is not really much of any complexity here. So I'll just see some questions. There are some questions. Okay, so yes, so somebody pointed out there is a small mistake here regarding the so this is the Vigyaya. So now so the meaning is now should be clear to you, having done. We'll see the other suffix also, that is called tumun, and then we'll see the examples of these suffixes. So this is another suffix which forms infinitive, what you call an infinitive in English. So it's a tumun is the original suffix name, only tum remains as a suffix. Again, this also final form is avyaya, indeclinable. That means you don't have to worry about bringing the case. You can use the form as it is. Final vowel here takes guna. What does it mean? So kru is the root. Kru is the root here. And rukara becomes as guna. So that's why it's become kartum. So tum comes in the end, but before tum, the root will take guna. Gunas we already discussed once, that ikara or ikara have a as the guna, ukara or ukara has o as the guna, rukara or rikara has as the guna. So shrotum, shru, that is the root u, and here guna becomes o, becomes shrotum, to hear. Jnatum, here the guna will not take place because guna applies to these vowels. So gya is akara, so it directly has the form gyatum. In this case, it does not matter if the verb has prefix or not. So this form will not change. It will remain the same suffix tum, whether verb has the prefix or not. Some verbs take the ikara before the suffix, like raksh. Raksh means to protect, rakshitum. This is a logic which you can only understand if you study Panini grammar thoroughly. But which verbs take ikara before the suffix, that you have to just right now use it as a reference. The rule for all the rules for this ikara is not in the scope of this course. Now we'll see this gam dhatu, which is very popular. Gam means to go. There are 4 forms. So gatva. Gatva, as you know, it's the twa pratyaya, like twa. So it becomes gatva, not gamtva. There are certain rules, as I said. When you add the suffix, there are certain other rules which come into play, which make the final forms. Then if it is prefix, verb with the prefix, it is agatya, the ya suffix will come, ya. So for gam dhatu, and there are a few more like this, there is an option, either you can say tya or mya in this particular. So agatya or agamya, both are acceptable. This is optional forms. And gantum, that is for the tum pratyaya, gantum. So the meaning of this suffix, the words like just, to, do, how it is used, we'll see some usages for all these suffixes. So this is from lesson 12 of Sanskrit Subodhini. So if you look at a simple sentence, yada Ramo gruham gacchati tada sa jalam pivati. When Rama goes home, he drinks water. 2 things here. One, first Rama goes home and then he drinks water. He is doing 2 actions, going home and drinking water. 2 actions he is performing. If I use this, instead of using it as this kind of sentence, which is kind of pretty lengthy, I can use a gerund form, twa pratyaya, and I could say it like this. Gruham gatva Ramo jalam pibati. Having gone home, Rama drinks water. So I can either make it like having gone home, or I can say after going home. So essentially it will mean roughly the same thing. After going home, Rama drinks water. So in English, you see what makes more sense as when you translate in English. But the idea is this. Graham gatva Ramo jalam pibati. Having gone home, Rama drinks water. In Hindi, if you look at this particular formation, the translation is very straightforward. Ghar jaakar Ram pani pita hai. So that's how it will become. So those who know Hindi among you, they can easily relate how this construct directly translates to a Hindi sentence. Because it's a indeclinable form, it does not depend on whether the subject is plural or singular, or it is first person, second person, or third person. It does not depend upon that. The form remains the same. Similarly, whether it is singular form, dual form, plural form, it doesn't matter. This form remains the same. So past tense, present tense, it doesn't matter. So you could say, for example, here, Gruham gatva Ramo jalam apibat. Apibat is the, as you know, it's the past sentence, lang lakara. Having gone home, Rama drank water. So Gruham gatva would not change. Because the tense changes into the past tense, the form remains the same. As I said, similarly, you could have whether Sita, whether it could be masculine, neuter, feminine, doesn't matter. This form still remains the same. Then we have Jalam patum Ramo gruham gachati. So patum, this tum, as I told you, tum is used in the sense of infinitive to do with a purpose, like in this sentence. Jalam patum Ramo gruham gachati. Rama goes home to drink water. So Rama goes home, why? To drink water. That's how it comes. And in this case, what does Rama do after going home? Rama drinks water. So both of them kind of indicate the same thing. First he goes home and then he drinks water. But there is a subtle difference the way you make the sentences. So whether you use this kind of clause, when he goes home, he drinks water, or you say, having gone home, Rama drinks water, or Rama goes home to drink water. So there's definitely certain differences the way you form the sentences, but they can also be formed interchangeably in many instances. And that gives a tremendous power to form Sanskrit sentences and the vocabulary. Because now you don't have to have all the long sentences. You could just use the very short clause and make very beautiful sentences. And that's the one of the beauty of the participles. Participles allow you to make a sentence which can encompass multiple actions in different stages. So we'll see some examples from Gita just to see how are they being used in Gita. So this verse 6:12, तत्र एकाग्रं मनः कृत्वा यतचित्तेन्द्रियक्रियः उपविश्यासने युञ्ज्यात् योगम् आत्मविशुद्धये. So कृत्वा, and occupying that seat, concentrating. So here it is translating concentrating. Literally it would be mean having done the concentration. So it does not mean that it is first it is finished and then only the second action starts, but this action precedes the second action. That's what it means. So he is still concentrating after this, but he starts with concentration and then he starts the second action. So two actions it refers to. First action is represented by this form and second action will be represented by the verb form. Then here kartum, tasmat shastram pramanam te karya vyavasthitau ज्ञात्वा शास्त्र विधानोक्तम कर्म कर्तुमिहार्हसि. So kartum, to perform, you ought to perform. So to do, in English the better translation probably is to perform, but the idea is to do. So knowing this, here is it's interesting, both are used. There is a gyatva, that is a gerund form, we saw that. So knowing this, or having known this, or after knowing this, like whichever way it makes more sense in English to translate, but the idea is that you know first and then you do the action accordingly. This is another verse which also uses both jiran and the tumun and twa pratyaya. So sorry, twa and ya pratyaya. So this is a verse. तांस्तु हत्वा ततः काकान् कौशिको मुदितो भवत् प्रतिकृत्य यथा कामं शत्रूणां शत्रुसूदनः. Having slain those crows. So having slain, hatva means, han dhatu means to kill. So having slain those crows, and then pratikrutya, after having behaved. So this is a verse from Mahabharata. Pratikrut, after having behaved towards his foes. So pratikrutya, after having behaved or after having done, like in that sense. So just wanted to show you some examples both in the simple sentences as well as in the scriptures for these forms. So now I'll take the questions on the chat window. So there is a question, can we use Ramaha? I'm not sure. Can you please explain your question a little bit more detail? Instead of Sa, can be used Saha. Which sentence are you talking about? So Jwala Prasad ji, if you can please clarify, I'm not very sure. Instead of Sa, can Saha be used? Which particular place? So if you could please clarify, that would be helpful. There is a question, I don't see a declination called Ramo. Am I missing something? Ramo Graham Gachati, that's the Sandhi. I hope you have, I mean, this is pretty basic Sandhi. Aha, when Ramaha followed by Graham, it becomes Ramo. So actual word is Ramaha, and it becomes Ramo because of the Sandhi rule. There is a question, would you please explain how Ramaha becomes Ramo? Okay, I'll explain to you, but I'm not sure if you have been doing any exercises, because this is something very extremely basic. We have probably, if you have been doing exercise, you might have come across this at least 100 times by now. So this is the Visarga Sandhi rule. This is long ago we studied this rule, that aha changes to O when it is, so Visarga is preceded by Akara and followed by a voiced consonant. The sequence aha changes to O, and result is two separate words. So I hope that this is long ago we covered this rule, and it has been coming again and again in most of our exercises. So if you have any questions because of which you are not able to understand these Sandhi rules, please feel free to ask us. But I hope at least you are doing your homework and exercises. Okay, there is a question here. We use twa in the daily meal prayer, having become the digestive fire. That is indeed truth. Good. That's a very good thing you identified. So this is the prayer we do in the before the food. It's coming from Gita. Aham vaishwa naro bhutva praninam deham ashritah. So bhutva. it is indeed this form, having become. So taking the form, that's what the translation is. Who means to be, and taking the form, having become that form. Good observation. Is tum only be used as to do? Are there examples of other usage of it if they exist? So tum pratyaya is, as I told you, it is used in the sense of the purpose for which you are doing the previous action. That is the idea. So jalam patum ramo gruham gacchati. Jalam patum. So to drink water, Rama goes home. So when I say to drink, it is indeed in the sense of that a purpose for which you are doing the previous action. That is the idea of tum. As you see the more usages, you will find that there would be more ways you can understand the use of tum. Gita 12th chapter 11th verse also has 12th 11. Let me see what does 12th 11 is. Athaitadapi shaktoshi kartum mad yoga mashrita. Yes, there are a lot of examples. These two forms are extremely common. So you will find a lot of examples in Sanskrit literature, in Gita, everywhere. They are very common. And they give the tremendous power to the sentences. So yes, here if you are unable even to do this, you see this verse to do, it's coming from this kartum, to do. So if you are unable to do, in that sense, it is not like you are doing another action. So this is another way to use tum. So when you are using in the sense of if you are unable to do, in that case, it's not really the subsequent action, but it is used in the verb shakta, ashaktaha asi. Then also you can use this tumun form, kartum. So you will come across a few usages like this, and you can be more comfortable in seeing how it is used. So there is a comment here, Swamiji, I have been familiar with this form for a while through studying and chanting the Gita in my spare time. Only today I learned that it's an indeclinable. I always thought it was a verb form. Thank you. So thank you. I'm happy that you have been chanting Gita and are able to recognize this form. So this is, even though it's an indeclinable, but it's a participle, and it does represent a verbal function. So it's not a verb form. As a form, it's indeclinable, but as a function, it does support the function of the verb. So there is a question in the Gita analysis class, how would these gerund or infinitive be categorized, as verbs or as indeclinables? They will be categorized as indeclinables. So verb is specifically for those forms which have these suffixes ti or taha or anti, like that. Like it, you have to have a tense form, a lakara, whether present tense, past tense, lot lakara, some tense in order to have a verb form. So this one is indeclinable. It doesn't change irrespective of what the tense is, what the person is, doesn't matter. So there is a comment also for the 927. There is a prayer we do on 927. So yat karoshi yadashnasi yajjuhoshi dadasi yat tapasyasi kaunteya tat kurusho madarpanam. I do not see in this any form which is twa or tum pratyaya. So, Salil Baba, if you clarify exactly what you are referring to. There is a question here. Can you say pivatum instead of patum? Okay. So here is the sentence. Jalam patum Ramo gruham gachati. Rama goes home to drink water. So why the verb is actually, so it's an interesting verb. It's a pibati here. So he drinks water. So the verb is here is pa. So verb is pa, to drink. But when you make the forms of verbal forms, it becomes pibati. So there are certain rules. Pa changes to pib in these making these kind of forms. But it does not change to pib when you make tumun form or twa forms. So pi twa. So if you have to have the like having drunk water, Rama goes home, then you will say pi twa. So pi twa patum. That here it does not change. So Eugene's book, not Eugene's book, the Sanskrit Subodhini has given a list of forms, these two pratyaya, that how the forms come in these pratyayas, and some for some very useful words at the end of chapter 12. So please refer to those forms. So pivatum will not be correct, patum only would be correct. So there is a question, twa and tum both, they need two actions. Twa refers to the first action and tum refers to the second action. Yes, in general that is correct. Twa refers to the first action, tum refers to the second action. As I said, in some cases, like we saw in Gita, if you are not able to do this. So in that sense also it is used, where it is not really the second action, but it is the capability. Or I want to drink water. So in that sense also you will use aham jalam patum ichhami. So to desire, in that case, it is not really the second action, but it is the purpose for which I want. So I want to drink water. So in that sense also tum is used. So as I said, as you will get, now you will be able to identify these forms more and more in Gita or any other Sanskrit text you study, and you can get a good sense of it, that how these forms are being used, what do they mean. So if there are no more questions, we'll just have a little bit classwork, and then I'll explain a few more things about this pratyaya today. So this is the classwork. So you can study these 2 pages from Sanskrit Subodhini and send your questions through chat window. You can also try to solve the first 4 sentences of this exercise I have given here on page 103 from Sanskrit Subodhini. So, and you can send your questions through chat window. So right now it is 9:56, 9:57. We'll in another 10 minutes we'll again gather. Okay, thank you. Welcome everyone. There are some questions here. So there is a question, Sanskrit primer, this Sanskrit Subodhini, the book, does not offer the solutions to the exercises. So thank you very much for providing them. However, is there some sort of supplement published from the same publisher with the solutions anyway? Not that I'm aware of. For the solutions, you must thank Swami Tapasyananji. He is doing the great work, hard work for putting the exercises together and their solutions in this format. So there is a question, does it become Drushtva in number 4? Yada jana mam pashyeyuhu tadaste sarvato dhaveyuhu. Yes, it will become Drushtva. That is correct. In the sentence number 4 exercise, that's what the question is asking. And Yada ashwatrunam khadanti tadate pushyanti. And he is saying number 1 is khaditum. It is khaditum, that is correct. But because it is the first action, normally you would refer it to as khaditva. And so the question is ashwatrunam khaditum pushyanti. So if you look at this sentence, the first sentence says yada ashwaha trunam khadanti tadate pushyanti. When they eat the grass, when the horses eat the grass, then they get nourished. So eating the grass is the first and nourishment is the purpose. So if you want to make jiran form or the twa form, you will use with the khaditwa, not khaditum. So because it is the first action. There is a question, page 100. Let me open the page 100. Infinitive to see is used although there are different agents Sita and Rama. So page number 100 in the book. Okay, I'll come to this question shortly, Michael. So there is a statement here, Dasaha Kankam Choraitva Nupo Dasam Tudati. So that is not allowed here because the agents are different. So the question here is Dasaha Kanakam Choraitva. The servant having stolen the gold, the king punishes the servant. But here the punishment is done by king and the stealing is done by the servant. Both are different, different persons. So that it is the same person who has to be doing both the actions. So let me touch base upon this particular aspect a little bit. So let us consider these two sentences. Yada Sita Gruham Gachati Tada Ramo Jalam Pivati. When Sita goes home, then Rama drinks water. Here, going, this action, Gachati, is done by Sita. Sita is the subject of this verb, action, Gachati. And Pivati is the action which is being done by Rama. Therefore, you cannot use twa pratyaya. So one of the conditions for using twa pratyaya or even tum pratyaya is that the subject, the doer, has to be the same for both the actions, previous action as well as the subsequent action. It is the same person who is the doer, not two different persons. So in this kind of sentence, this construction is correct. Yada Sita graham gacchati tada Ramo jalam pivati. But you cannot convert it into a twa pratyaya or tum pratyaya. Now look at this sentence. Graham gatva jalam pitva falani khaditva Ramo vidyalayam gacchati. So graham gatva, having gone home, jalam pitva, drinking water, falani khaditva, eating fruits, Ramo vidyalayam gacchati. Rama goes to school. So you can have multiple actions preceding before the main action. So main action here is represented by the verb form gacchati. Ramo vidyalayam gacchati. That is the main action. So it could be preceded by multiple actions, and you could keep on adding like this. Graham gatva, jalam pitva, falani khaditva. But the condition is same person. Rama alone will be the responsible for going, for drinking water, for eating fruits. He is the subject for all the previous actions as well. So you could keep multiple clauses like this. Okay. So that's why I hope your question is clear. Dasaha kanakam choretto nirpo dasam tudati, that will not be correct sentence. So there is a question here. Jana mam pashaitva te dhave. So again we go to the classwork here. Jana mam pashyayuhu tada te sarvato dhave. So jana and te, they refer to the same subject. Jana means people, and te is also referring to the same people, same subject. So you don't have to use it twice. There is a question, jana mam pashyeyu te dhaveyu. You can just say jana mam drushtva. So not pashyatva. The form becomes drushtva. And if you check the Sanskrit Subodhini, as I said, he has given here, the author has given the forms twajiran, yajiran, infinitive for different roots. So you can see here, this is on page 112 here, you can see that what are these forms in Sanskrit Subodhini. Okay, so drush, which is dhatu, which has the form pashyati in the third person singular, has drushtva. That is the form drushtva. So not pashyatva and drashtum, like that. Because the original root is drush, not pash. In this case, it becomes pashyati because of some other rules. So there is a question, comment here, struggled with actions done by two different subjects, number 2 and number 3. Yes, so as long as it is clear to you now, I hope it's okay. But otherwise, if it's still not clear, please feel free to ask the question. So in Gita verse 147, Eva Muktva, is this a jiran? So 147. So Eva Muktva, this one, Uktva, this is indeed a jiran. And this is indeclinable. And we have done this in our Gita class also. Verse 210, Eva Muktva Hrishikesham Gudakeshah Parantapa. So it is indeclinable. It is indeclinable. It's a twa pratyaya, and the verb here is vaj. So having said, so having spoken like this, that's what it would mean. Here, if you look at, there is another form, Visrujya. Visrujya is also twa pratyaya or ya pratyaya, because it's a prefix of the verb we, and that means having given up. So having spoken thus, you see the translation, having spoken thus, having cast aside, that's what Visrujya means, having cast aside. So now you can very slowly, as you see these forms, you can start seeing the meanings of the verses much more clear. And Krut Pratyaya is particularly, we only discussed like 2 or 3 Pratyayas today. They are total about 125. Not all of them are common. Common ones may be like 15, 20, but they will give you so much understanding of the different forms of the words and their meanings in different verses. So we'll cover a few more in this course, some more common Krut Pratyayas. Okay, let me see in the chat window if there are any more questions. Okay, so there is a question here. Dasena kanakam choraitva nrupaha dasam tudati. So can we do like this? So that basically means that choraitva would become having gotten it stolen by the servant, the king punishes the servant. So if that is what you are trying to convey, then it's okay. But it meaning will become a little bit changed. Like it means like having servant steal the money, then the king is punishing the servant. So you just have to be very clear that meaning will become a little different. You can make this kind of sentence though. So there is a comment, you are a gifted teacher, thank you. Can we translate as follows? Dasena kanakam choraitva nrupaha. So I answered that question. So there is a comment here, confused about gerund and infinitive definitions. Both have the same rules. See the examples and see where the confusion is, and then you can write to us on the email. The function is quite different. So if you look at here, Graham gatva ramo jalam pibati. Here the action is preceding of going, and drinking the water is later. So we use the gerund for the previous action. Twa form. Jalam patum ramo graham gachati. Here drinking water is again later action. So we use for the later action. First he is going home to drink water. Like drinking the water would be the purpose of going home. So that's where we use the tum pratyay. So they are quite different. They are not replaceable by each other. You can make a sentence in which in one sentence you can use twa for one verbal form, and for another, just like here, graham gatva. So gatva is actually connected with graham and patum is connected with jalam. So they convey the similar meaning, not exactly the same. Here it's simply saying that having gone home, Rama drinks water. But here is saying Rama goes home to drink water. Like means that is the purpose. He may or may not drink the water. That part is not completed here. But here that part is completed. He has gone home and he drinks water. But here it is simply showing the purpose that to drink the water he is going home. And the second action, which is the to drink water, is represented by the tum pratyaya. Here the first action, going home, is represented by the twa pratyaya. So they certainly are not interchangeable. So if you still are not very sure, Lakshmi Ma, please feel free to write to us on the email. Look at some examples, look at the exercise, and if still there is some confusion, feel free. For anybody who is still have any questions, please always feel free to write to us. So another thing I wanted to point out here, look at this sentence, Gruham gatva Ramo jalam pivati. We said that one sentence in Sanskrit has only one verb form. So in this case, pivati is the verb form. Gatva is indeclinable. So still that rule holds, that one Sanskrit sentence will have one verbal form. But what has happened here? Jalam, if you know which case and which number it is, Jalam, it is the accusative case, singular. Like Vanam, it's a neuter form, Akaranta. So Vanam vane vanani, Vanam vane vanani. So Jalam jale jalani. So Jalam is the second accusative case singular. And that makes sense. It is the object of the root, the verb pivati, drinking water. So Rama is the subject, Jalam is the object, pivati is the drinking. So Rama drinks water. Rama is nominative singular, Jalam is accusative singular, object. What is Gruham? Which case and which number it is? It is also accusative singular. Same form. Jalam, Graham. This is also neuter noun. Gruham gatva. It is also nominative singular, accusative singular, second case singular. We said that when two things appear in a sentence in the same case and same number, they are related generally by the adjective and noun relationship. But here Graham and Jalam, home and water, they cannot be related for the noun and adjective. So here Graham is not related to pivati. He does not drink the home. It is related to gatva. So even though gatva is an indeclinable, but the very virtue of its form as a participle, it can take an object. That's what it is. So here this object is related to the verb, and this object is related to gatva. So going home, Rama drinks water. So here you don't have a lot of choice to put the words anywhere you feel like. Still there is a flexibility, but you cannot replace Jalam and Gruham. The meaning will become different and will become incomprehensible. So you cannot say Jalam gatva Ramo Gruham pivati. You cannot do that. So this puts a little bit of a limitation on free word order in Sanskrit. So as you make more complex sentences, you will see that you cannot just use free word order whichever way you like. But still there is like within Ramo Jalam Pivati, you can change these word order anywhere which you like in that sense. Graham Gatva, you can say Gatva Graham, is still okay. But you do not replace the Graham and Jalam, because then it would become a kind of incomprehensible. So just understand that now when we introduce these participle forms, they can take their own objects also. And that's what gives the beauty to Sanskrit sentences. Similar thing is in English also. In English, the same sentence, having gone home, Rama drinks water. So gone is actually a participle, not a verb in English. And home is the object of the verb gone. And water is the object of the verb drink. So just wanted to tell you that this aspect. So with this, I hope you have all the information regarding these two participles. I wanted to take some questions and comments received in some emails, but today time is not there for that. So we will do it for the next class. Please always, if you do not understand anything, please always feel free to write to us. I'll show you the exercise which we are having. So I have already posted the exercise on the drive. So 229 and 230, these are the two homework exercise. So this is from lesson 12 of Sanskrit Subodhini, and that is from lesson 13. Lesson 13 was related to some of the forms and vibhakti we already did some in the previous classes. So please submit these exercises. They will help you a lot to understand the concepts which we discussed today. Okay, so if there are no more questions, we'll close the class with the prayers. Sarve bhavantu sukhinah, sarve santu niramayah, sarve bhadrani pashyantu, ma kashchid dukkha bhag bhavet. Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.